Chaz Smith. It is the grit for June 1st, 2023.
I mean, what a day. David Lee Scales. What a week.
What a week in surfing. The most boring contest has yielded the most juicy stories. The athletes are now out for Eric Logan.
I mean, what did I say just last week? I do believe it was just last week that I said surf fans, might have been the week before, but enjoy all of this now. This is all going to end sooner than we know, right? Dirk Siff is going to get, or slash Natasha is going to get bored, and or the plug is going to get pulled, but this is peak surf entertainment. And unlike Succession, the World Surf League delivered its best episode yet.
A listener chimed in to say, this is our Scandoval.
Yeah, I saw that.
They're like the most kind of stupid, trashy version of television. And again, the most stupid, trashy version of surfing will create the most interesting fodder, the juiciest gossip, essentially.
And I felt like surf media, Beach Grit, really, let's just be honest. But surf media was here for it.
Yeah.
And then I feel that Beach Grit has done a really good job leading in this kind of content. But I feel Stab and, whatever, Zombie Surfer, everybody kind of piled on. And, people started, can you hear that damn helicopter?
No.
Okay. Yeah, like as they do, the surfers and Stabs, like really pull punches quick and all that. But there was like enough heat on this one that it went mainstream. Like there was mainstream media stories about the discontent in the World Surf League, etc. So the wall of positive noise breached to the point that CEO Eric Logan had to come and make a statement. Wild times.
I mean, when Gabriel Medina has 11 million followers on Instagram, that makes a splash beyond the little surf world. But what else is interesting is, well, in regard to commenting or not commenting on it, somebody sent us an email just an hour ago to say that they listened to this morning's episode of the Lineup podcast with Dave Prodan.
Yeah.
Dave Prodan and Mitch Salazar discussing the Surf Ranch Pro. They did not even acknowledge the controversy that happened after the event.
I mean, it's amazing. It's
incredible.
The head in the sand and the sort of will to ignorance that exists amongst and in the World Surf League. Like, you and I both know Dave Prodan. I think Dave Prodan is a fine guy, right?
Yeah.
I think the will to ignorance, though, the will to like blissful ignorance is why the whole thing is failing. There's an easy way. We don't have to get into it now, I suppose. This is getting into this show real hot, but there's an easy way, is an easy way for the World Surf League to take this controversy and use it 100% for the good of pro surfing in general, right? Not just for their own good, not even in a any news is good news kind of, or any all publicity is good publicity kind of way, but in a way that you've got people actually engaged now in a broader sphere going into El Salvador. So what are you going to do there, right? And there's a bunch of different ways they could do it. There's the way that you have discussed before, really lean into the blood, right? Like UFC, lean into this is now what we are. It's Brazil versus the world. Come, watch this melee. But there's a bunch of other different ways too to lean into it, to make it, more interesting to the people who are now tangentially, maybe for the first time, engaged with the storyline, where you could actually serve them. Okay, just exactly like I got served the Scandoval so many times that I started writing about the Scandoval. There's a way for them to keep this up. Instead, Eric Logan issues whoever their crisis management team should have got fired straight after that thing. And a like thoroughly embarrassing letter. Especially, I mean, there's just so many good storylines here. It's just
We'll
crazy.
get to the letter. We'll get to the letter in a second.
Okay.
We'll go one step at a time. But I will say that the other thing that I guess Prodan talked about on the podcast was First of all, he advertised the podcast as he and Mitch Salazar discuss how amazing Caitlin Simmer's surfing is. So that's the main kind of thing that they're promoting.
And Mitch Salazar, was he not one of the voices at Surf Ranch?
Yeah, yeah.
So he was. So both of, I mean, so Debbie Sullivan, Dave is the chief marketing officer of the World Surf League. Mitch was there talking about Katie Simmers, all fine and good.
Well,
but they were both there for the moment.
Yeah, my point is the little bit that I watched of the event itself, I actually noticed Caitlin Simmers too, and I thought her surfing was remarkable. Like that was going to be in my notes of things to discuss this week. But here's where they are failing is, or what they're not acknowledging, I guess, that, like you said, kind of willfully ignoring, is that despite the incredible surfing, their failures trump it. So what ends up becoming a storyline, by the way, the most boring event of the season and the most boring event in years, to be perfectly honest, up until the final controversy, I had almost nothing to discuss about the event. Caitlin Simmers, a little bit. I was going to make it a point to discuss that, but that was really it. All of that gets brushed aside entirely by their incredible incompetence and failures and the controversy that falls out. So it's nice of them to try to redirect the conversation, but it's a willful ignorance because they're failing so much harder that it's doing a disservice to their athletes, to their incredible athletes.
I mean, I think part of the problem is there's a myriad of problems. No, there are myriad problems. One of which is, I think the World Surf League, the executives left, the chiefs left, think each one of these failures is a like singular blip that will get recorrected by itself, and so they don't need to address it, right? There's no need to, this is not who we are. This was, out of character or out of line for our brand. And so we just want to address it and, it goes away. We'll go back to baseline. What none of them understand is the baseline is incompetence and this kind of stuff all the time. Like more than any other sports league in existence right now that I can think of, and maybe more than any in history, like an utterly incompetent governing body, incompetent to the point of like pure comedy, which again is what I said last week, I think, of enjoy like this kind of parody of any kind of leadership. It doesn't, when it reaches this level of ridiculousness, this doesn't come around all the time. It's difficult to be this goofy.
There's such a lack of self-awareness. So like I stated last week, they've created the WWE, right? We wanted UFC or Greco-Roman wrestling or whatever, and they created the WWE almost without knowing it.
Yeah.
And so the matches are fixed. They're doing these crazy pomp and circumstance to kind of lead up to ultimately the match. Gabriel Medina goes in there ready to do battle, and he doesn't realize that the fix is in and there's a script with a bunch of crazy song and dance. So he comes out of the event and goes, hey, we were training for a bloodbath and a heavyweight slugging match, and instead they just put on the clown music and did a song and dance. I wish I would have known. Yeah. Well, Eric Logan has so little self-awareness that he goes, how dare you say that we're creating the WWE? We are invested in Greco-Roman wrestling. Our heart is in Greco-Roman wrestling. If you speak up and say that this is the WWE, you will get fined and silenced. That's what's happening right now. And it's like, Eric, you're the only one who doesn't know that you created the WWE. You misunderstand Greco-Roman wrestling so badly that you think the WWE is equivalent to.
I mean, the amount of goof, the amount of just, which I think that it must have happened after our last week's chat, right? Where Eric Logan donned Felipe's naked breast.
This lands in the barrel or nos section, but go ahead and cover it now if you feel a need to. We cannot let this die.
No, ever. Like this is going to be my only Instagram post for the rest of my life. I already got busted by Instagram because I think I'm on number 5 now, where I'll post that as my first slide, and then somebody else to take your shirt off. Take your shirt off. This is how this all started, right? Yeah. Like putting this the beef in context, I think, is also important because it is front loaded with incompetence and then back loaded with incompetence, right? So
Yeah.
Surf Ranch starts, for those, everybody must have seen this by now, but in case you haven't, day before I think Surf Ranch kicked off, Eric Logan thought it was a good idea. This is, remember, a what, 50 something year old, maybe 60, 50, probably upper 50s, mid
I meant to
50s.
look up his age today too because it factors heavily into barrel or not.
Yeah, something
I'll
year old
find it.
man, 50 something year old man, I'm going to say, uh, who is the chief executive officer of the World Surf League. Now, as laughable as all that, maybe he's the boss, decided as boss it would be a good idea to get Felipe Toledo, one of his employees, ostensibly, one of the surfers on tour, to get his chest superimposed on a t-shirt because he thought his chest tattoo was unique and interesting, right? So all
Yep.
of this is like, okay. So Eric thought that was a good idea, got Philippe's chest on a t-shirt. On his own personal Instagram, then, which again, I don't know why he has one or why he feels the need to use it, but thought it would be a good idea to camera, hey, I got this. Philippe has a real interesting chest tattoo. Here,
Insane chest
here,
tattoo.
insane chest tattoo. Look at it, right? Let's go. I got a shirt. Let's go over and see what his reaction is. So Eric then walks over to Philippe, who's giving an interview, and like, hey, misses a hug. Like, I've watched it so many times now. The missed hug is epic. Eric goes into hug and fully misses a hug. Uh, Philippe laughs, of course. Eric tells him to take his shirt off. So then they're standing there side by side for a minute of Philippe lifting his shirt and exposing his tattoo to Eric standing there like a goofball in the t-shirt. I mean, this thing is, we could have done an entire 90-minute show on this moment alone if
Can
it
I
hadn't
play
been for
can I
the
play a
aftermath.
music can I play a music bed while we discuss it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Just enjoy and let me know once you recognize it.
Oh. This is one of the greatest scenes of any movie ever right here.
And a great song too.
I mean, it's an epic, epic, epic song. It's really funny.
Where do you recognize it from?
From, of course, from Silence of the Lambs, when Buffalo Bill is getting made up getting ready to get made up in the skin of a victim and dancing around putting makeup on, yeah.
And telling her to put the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again because he's going to skin the victim and wear their clothing. He's going to tailor a suit out of human clothing and wear it, which is exactly what Eric Logan did. I mean, not just Felipe Toledo's chest tattoo, the nipples also. The nipples are on the shirt.
I mean, it is so shocking. I love this song so much. It's funny when Dayton Lickness and I were working on, he was the editor for Who is J.O.B., the film. And when we were working on it, we would put this song on super loud and just dance around like Buffalo Bill. Like 4 a.m. That was a wild movie to make. Someday we should talk about that. I was
definitely.
Insane movie making process.
Eric Buffalo Bill Logan is now his new name for sure.
For sure. And so this is what front loaded this whole thing though, right? And so with Philippe too, with one of the three former champions, and the current world champion who had beef with the judging. This is how it started. So again, too many storylines here, but for Eric to be goofball Eric, goofball funny uncle who's like, like what is Philippe going to do there, right? In that situation when the phones are out and whatnot, that's his boss telling him to take your shirt off in a goofy ass prank. You got to say, play along, right? And then, but all of this, again, coupled directly, you cannot uncouple these two events. It's Eric Buffalo Bill Logan making again, somebody on Beach Grit, of course, and of course, the reference is exactly right. It's David Brent from the British Office, right? This is exactly something that Ricky Gervais's boss would have done, right? Eric did it like he thought it was funny, like in the show, Ricky Gervais's character thought everything he was doing was funny. It is misses on so many levels and is so not funny. And so, I mean, the word cringe is, of course, way overused these days. And it's unfortunate because the word cringe should be only reserved for moments like this, moments that you watch and just cringe. Like, it was cringeworthy at every level.
Well, did you catch Felipe's most recent post that was a direct response to Eric Logan doing that with the t-shirt?
No.
So Felipe Toledo yesterday, so we will get back. I wanted to already, but we'll come back to it.
We need, that's a problem with this show.
I know it really is, but we will come back to set the stage with what the controversy was and then kind of what happened, the fallout ever since. But because, by the way, you believe it or not, a lot of our listeners no longer have Instagram. I've gotten that note from people where they're like, man, I deleted Instagram a year ago. And so now I get my news from you. So
as you should.
We do need to set the table still for what happened exactly. But I will say that Philippe, like you said, bookend the beginning of the event, Eric Logan doing the t-shirt quote prank, which by the way, he states twice to Felipe, take off your shirt.
Take off your shirt. Take off your shirt.
So imagine in any other work environment, a CEO saying that to an employee, take off your shirt, right? Yeah. Full cancelable. Anyways, that was the bookend at the beginning of the event. Well, all the event happens, then the controversy happens. Felipe even states his opinion on the controversy. Then he posts a subsequent post yesterday, which is him with his shirt off, showcasing that entire tattoo. And the caption reads, God doesn't create copies, only originals. You are original. Don't compare yourself to anything you see here on the internet. Nobody is perfect. Do it for yourself, for those who are with you. Choose your dream, trust in the process, and be real. Be humble. Have respect and focus. March in progress. Let's go.
Ouch.
I feel like
Eric Logan.
That's a direct
shot.
A direct clap back to, hey, bro, you were putting this on the internet as if we're friends.
Yeah.
Then we made a statement against you yesterday, and then you made an open letter statement against us, vilifying us for putting our kind of thoughts out there. I now need to make a subsequent post showing that we're not friends. 3 days ago, you made me look like we were friends, and I had to just go with it because you're the boss. Now I have a reason to let people know we're not copies. I'm an original. Don't try to be like me. Don't try to be buddy with me.
I mean, here's the problem again with that. Like, there was so many misses in that Eric Logan moment. It was such a David Brent, old, like, middle-aged man moment of, like, as much as I am no Felipe Toledo advocate. Am I?
No.
Would you consider me a champion for Felipe Toledo here?
No.
Yes, but Felipe Toledo and his chest tattoo, whatever that is, whatever that means to him, is something, right? Now, you can joke and prod, or I can joke and prod as media about it in ways that I want, right? Like, I'm not putting him on the spot for anything. You got a big old chest tattoo. I can do what I want with it. But if I was like trying to bro down with Philippe in there's just so many misses there because I don't know what that means. If I was trying to do something friendly with Philippe, I don't know what that tattoo means to him. Maybe it has a deep, deep, deep meaning. Yeah. And so to clown it as he's got this crazy, or what does he say? What's the direct
insane?
Quote? Insane. He's got this insane, and
do you want me to play the clip?
Yes, please.
I've got it.
It's so good.
Felipe Toledo has got the most insane chest tattoo. So I just had this shirt made. He's over doing an interview right now. So now I'm gonna walk over, gonna record him seeing this for the first time. So check it out.
Go on. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Take your shirt off.
Take
your shirt off. Is this good? I gotta get it done. Right, okay.
Oh, you're looking fit.
I will present the trophy in the shirt.
I love it.
Okay. Extra motivation.
All right. I'll see you up there then.
I love you, buddy.
So
He didn't, by
is
the way. He lied. He did not present the trophy in that shirt either.
well, because Felipe didn't win.
But yeah, sure. But
I
I
think
mean,
that's what he was saying is if you win, I'll present it. But also, isn't It's Getting Hot in Here, so take off all your clothes, the song that's playing on his Instagram?
I mean, it is. Like, there's so many. I
It's
mean, he
a
just is,
violation of any HR law in any country.
he is David Brandt. He is the utterly clueless. And for any listener who has not watched the Office version or the British version of The Office, Steve Carell's American version is like awkward but lovable. He has a good heart. Ricky Gervais's is Eric Logan. Has like does not necessarily mean well or mean ill. Is just utterly clueless. That's what Eric Logan is. Utterly clueless.
Well, that whole post is just an ill-conceived concept. It's like, why would you think it's funny in any way? And then number two, it is an HR violation. Number three, what in the world motivates you to film it and to post it on your own Instagram? And I think that answers it all. Is his only motivation was to film something that he thought was zany and post it on Instagram for his followers, because it's not a business decision. It's not going to endear him to Felipe Toledo in any way.
I mean,
It's in fact, it's going to jeopardize your relationship with Felipe Toledo. If anything, you're just trying to clout on Instagram to your fans and be like, hey, look, we're buddy. That's all that it is.
The real problem though is then you force, like, Dickie Toledo, Philippe's dad got in there, like, oh, this is so funny, right? Like, you force people in the moment, I think, to say, like, social media is rough for this, right? Because you do something that's awkward and like gag inducing. And then of course Philippe has to act good and everybody comes in immediately. Dick, like, oh, so funny, da 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 da, right? Like,
yeah.
Ricardo Toledo. Sorry for calling him Dickie Toledo, but you know
it's all right.
But so you force these people in a moment, like it goes live, they comment, but then maybe later on in the afternoon or later in the day, they think, that didn't really make me feel good. Like, that was a weird exchange. And again, it wasn't like if Eric Logan, say, was if he was like an employee at Surf Ranch and did that, like pulled a stunt, right? If that was Joe Turpel doing that, one of the announcers, right? Then I would say that is silly and embarrassing for you, Joe, but it doesn't go beyond that. It's just like, you're, whatever, you pulled a ill thought prank on Philippe or a prank that doesn't look very good. But for the CEO, and then again, that's the front. The back end is Brazil raging at Eric Logan in the World Surf League. And do we want to get into that now? Why?
Yeah, we do. That's a perfect segue. Thank you to bring us back. So basically, in the most boring surf event in the world, in which I did not watch, like I was not even compelled to watch in any way, but occasionally throughout the 2 days, I would pull up Instagram and WSL would be replaying a 9-point ride from, that day. Of course, I'm going to watch a 9-point ride. I didn't even need to get 15 seconds into it. I would just scroll past because it's so repetitive, so boring, all that, right? So at the end of the event, it ends up Italo Ferreira and Griffin Colapinto in the final. And I start seeing all of this controversy about basically all the fans saying Italo won the final, or Italo should have won the final. Griffin ends up winning by the judges' count, gets awarded first place, the trophy, all that. But by the media or the spectators viewing, they're all like, man, Italo got robbed. He got underscored, Griffin got overscored. So then old Surf Dad on YouTube took the clips and ran them side by side, because this is the one environment on the planet where you could take a wave from the beginning and the end. It starts at the same point, ends at the same point, runs for the exact same amount of time, barrels in the exact same place.
Looks the
and
same.
You can, what's that?
Looks the same.
Yeah. And so you can put both surfers getting up to their feet at the same moment and just watch what they do down the line. apples for apples, basically, and judge which one surfs the wave more better to the judges' criteria, kind of in a more objective fashion than you could do anywhere else on the planet. So I took the time to watch those clips, even though I hadn't watched the event previously, and almost by any measure and any criteria, and certainly the criteria that the WSL has set out, Idolo won that exchange, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you agree? You think Idolo won the exchange?
Not only Idolo. I mean, are we going to get into Gabriel? I think Gabriel won his exchange more than Idolo won his.
Okay, so that's
and,
another. So that also
I think Philippe didn't win his, but again, Philippe's, whether you like it or not, Philippe's varial to switch stance barrel, again, that is real weird taste. And if surfing goes, I'm not saying I want surfing to go down this way. I don't want surfing to become street skateboarding, right? With a bunch of tricks so like fussy and weird and hard to kind of, I mean, and forgive me, skate fans who are listening. I love watching some street league too, and now I can actually get it. So maybe I'm coming into it. But anyway, that being said, that's probably one of the hardest things. Again, a varial into a switch stance tube.
Yeah.
That was decent. Like his tube, he was squatty in there, but he was riding the barrel switch after a varial, and that got a 6 or something. When progression is part of the criteria, that's the most progressive thing that's ever been done at the tank. So all to say, not to dwell on Fleet, but Gabriel and Idolo definitely had beef. Should have won. Like, objectively should have won.
Yeah.
Which, again, and with the, I don't know if you want to get into it now, but the argument between flow and explosiveness, which I thought JP Curry on Beach Grit dealt with phenomenally.
Well, so the controversy here is certainly there's been squabbles about the judging in the past, but once it gets on the internet, it's kind of split. There's a lot of argument for either side because it's so subjective. This is an instance where it was unanimous. There was a clear consensus. I mean, I saw maybe Beach Grit posted there was one person that they saw in all of the comment sections who was making an argument for Griffin over Italo. But
I mean, I think the overall case, I think, was, or the argument that started happening in Beach Grit was flow over explosiveness, right?
Okay.
And so this is where JP Curry went into, and forgive the listeners who do not like professional surfing, but I suppose this relates directly also to any kind of surfing, professional or not, is what's kind of a better surfing, linking stuff and looking real smooth, or doing cool stuff, right? Because there are surfers in history that have done both. I think Andy Irons is probably a old chestnut trope at this point, but Andy Irons surfed explosively and also really had flow, right? Yeah. But also Andy Irons was not doing anything nearly as progressive as this Brazilian crew. This Brazilian crew has come out and blown the doors off even perception of what we ever thought, or what I ever thought could be done on a surfboard. I mean, between Idolo, Gabe, and Felipe, I will say they have radically altered my imagination of what is possible. And so I think, though, their explosivity, again, particularly Idolo's, because he does surf like a roid rage freak, right?
Yeah.
Like there's like, and then he goes and he, does airs, and then he freaks out and jumps around in the competitors area slamming Red Bulls, and then he paddles back out. And it's this where, the flow looks good and feels good. But to JP Curry's point, I'm basically a 50-year-old man. And JP Curry's like, this judges are 50 years old too, right? Like, this is what they want, this smooth kind of flow, which is all good, but stinking make up your minds, because it definitely does not say that in the rule book. It says progression, and all this is weighted as much as anything. And so if you want it to be a flow fest, if you want Tom Curran circa, 1984 with a couple blowtails mixed in slash, Ethan Ewing style or Griff style, then make that the criteria. But that is not the criteria, which is where the beef. So this is not, I think, that's where the debate went to Beach Grit is, do you like flow or do you like explosiveness?
Right.
But I think that's not actually fair, because it's explosiveness is what's supposed to be judged higher and got judged very much lower.
Yeah. So that's really where the controversy ends up happening. It's not just that people think they got it wrong. It's that Gabriel Medina takes to Instagram to allude to the fact that they got it wrong. And what Gabriel Medina really focuses his Instagram plea on is, we need transparency. He says, this is an open letter to the WSL. Please, we need transparency. Basically, whatever you state as the criteria, we will surf to it. We feel like we have in the past, and we feel like we have not always been rewarded for it. And so we've actually, our coaches, the athletes ourselves, we've come in and asked for clarity on what you want. After scores are given and we feel like we got slighted, we ask for clarity, and we don't feel like we've gotten it. So what are we to do at this point? Like, we just want clarity. And I feel like he wasn't, like, he did a really kind of deft job of making it so that it wasn't defamatory. It was more like of a sympathetic plea of asking for something rather than saying,
help me help you, man. That's
Yeah.
the way it felt.
Rather than saying, you guys got this so wrong, Idolo got robbed, I got robbed, or any of that. It was more just like, please give us more transparency, clearly define a criteria, and then also help us to, or help explain after the fact why you chose what you did. Which is nice that Old Surf Dads, by the way, put these two clips side by side on YouTube, because there was controversy and we wanted to see it side by side. And it's really the way that the WSL should have handled it before we even freaked out about it. You know what I mean? Like, they should have put these two things up with the head judge, and the head judge can explain what you said. We're valuing flow more now than before. And
Yeah.
Gabriel's point is, good, we'll show up in El Salvador and we'll flow better than anybody else, and you'll still not give us the title like you didn't to Felipe last year.
I mean, it truly is a mad moment. And again, the weird thing is, the broken incompetence of the WSL is not going to get fixed because, again, of broken incompetence. Logan's response to, and again, for those who, I think there's in surf, and I've been around surf media for way too long at this point, but the trope that Brazilians are whiny and cry babies when they lose and all this kind of stuff, right, I think that's old. I think there was maybe at some point a feeling like, what do we need to do? And they just weren't getting, it just wasn't happening, and it was hard. And I think there probably was feelings of, we're getting robbed, and, whining that went along with that. I think that's not true today. None of what I read from either Gabriel or Idolo or Philippe felt like whinging. It felt like real honest, come on, man. Like, this ain't chill. And
Yeah.
And it's not. Like, it is objectively not cool.
Well, so Eric Logan addressed, I stated that Gabriel Medina took to Instagram to state what I said, but Idolo also took to Instagram and Felipe took to Instagram too, basically in support of Gabriel Medina, sharing their own version of it. Took about 30 hours, I'd say, until Eric Logan responded, and he posted an open letter, not on his Instagram or promoting it on his own platforms, by the way, even though he promotes everything else that's positive about the WSL on his own platforms. He posted it on I guess it might have been on the WSL's website, but it ended up on social media. Okay.
It was WSL's website. It's like, is the front page of the WSL's website as of yesterday.
Okay. And the open letter says, to the WSL community, I want to address, oh, by the way, one thing I didn't state was, once Gabriel took a stance, death threats. A lot of the Brazilian community that's in support of Gabriel's stance came in hot and heavy, and there was death threats that were sent to Ethan Ewing, just like last year after Griffin Colapinto won over Felipe Toledo controversially in El Salvador. Griffin Colapinto received death threats as well. So anyways, Eric does address that. He says, I want to address the conversation. Go ahead.
Real quick about the death threats, though. Ethan and Griffin last year and Griffin this year. Ethan took him like a good old surfing man, right? Before any of this, he posted the death threats to his Instagram and said, "Aren't surf fans great?" with a blow kiss face. It wasn't some scared thing. It was like, Ethan, I'm sure it riles you when you get a death threat, right? But also is like, this is funny. I mean, I would think it was funny if some rando on Instagram threatened me with death and I have been threatened with death for stuff. From randos on Instagram is not scary. And Ethan did the exact right thing with a blow kiss. Aren't surf fans great? Continue.
Yeah. So Eric says, I want to address the conversation that happened in our community following the recent championship tour event at Surf Ranch. As you likely know, a small number of athletes made statements questioning the judging of the competition and the final results. By the way, yes, a small number of athletes, but three world champs, including the current world champ, right? Whose shirt, whose body you
were just wearing.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe not even a small number. Maybe not even a small number. Like maybe that's on Instagram publicly, but
yeah. Well, let's say it was 3 out of the, how many surfers remain after the cut? 22.
Yeah, 22.
So that's a decent percentage, Yes. That's 12 or 14% of the tour actually posted on Instagram about
all champions.
So then he spends a paragraph saying how violence, and death threats are, bad and that nobody should ever harass anybody, blah, blah, blah. He goes on to say, in terms of the statements made, we completely reject the suggestion that the judging of our competitions is in any way unfair or biased. These claims are not supported by any evidence. Firstly, the judging criteria are provided to the athletes ahead of each competition. All athletes competing at the Surf Ranch Pro received these materials on May 20th. Every athlete had the opportunity to ask questions about the criteria at that time. None of the athletes who made these statements took advantage of this opportunity at the Surf Ranch Pro. Secondly, our rules allow any athlete to review the scoring of any wave with the judges and receive a more detailed explanation of how they were scored with the judges. This process has been in place for a number of years and is the direct result of working with the surfers to bring more transparencies to the judging process. It is not acceptable and is a breach of league policy for surfers to choose not to engage with the proper process and instead air their grievances on social media. A number of athletes at the Surf Ranch Pro received points for elements such as progression and variety, so it is simply incorrect to suggest that these are not taken into account in the judging criteria. Furthermore, our rules have been applied consistently throughout the season, including at events this season that were won by athletes who are now questioning those same rules. Surfing is an ever-evolving subjective sport, and we welcome robust debate around the progression of our sport and the criteria used to judge our competitions. However, it is unacceptable for any athlete to question the integrity of our judges who, like the surfers, are elite professionals. No one person or group of people are above the integrity of our sport. Sincerely, Eric Logan.
Boom. Hammer. A hurt feeling hammer that's so filled with half-truths and inaccuracies and misunderstanding and stupidity and ignorance and dumb-dumbness as to be, again, what I said last week, man. We are living in the Monty Python era of surfing. We have a Monty Python era-esque league.
Yeah.
And this is what you get when you got that.
Look, when you create an environment where none of the employees feel comfortable coming to the perpetrator of a lot of the grievances to complain about the grievances, then these types of things happen. People speak out on social media as a result. When Bethany Hamilton gets canceled for speaking out about something when the male surfers who go to support her, get essentially, I don't know what you would call it, but not, they're not allowed to voice their concern about what happened to Bethany at risk of losing their jobs. You silence everybody. So this is exactly what's happening now. And he actually, by the way, validates exactly what Gabriel is saying by basically threatening to silence him again, by saying it's unequivocally not allowed for athletes to take to social media to air their grievances. Why not?
I mean,
right?
It's so insane. I mean, all of it is so insane. The last line is like, to me, was the funniest of, we're not ever going to put one person or group of people above the integrity of the sport, which is in their pivot, whether you like it or not, over the last couple years of, and again, I hate the word woke as much as I hate the word cringe, but I don't know how else to describe. Like, WSL is very progressively performative, right? Because I think we can definitively say it is that. It is, I don't
totally
see what they're doing
about
in
Black
any
Lives
kind
Matter
of,
at this point. Yeah.
No, exactly, precisely.
Yeah.
How is the World Surf League engaging in urban communities to help in any way, shape, or form? How are they doing anything? It's plant a bush, say we're environmental, move on, right? Like, it's a smoke and mirrors, if there ever was one, organization, which has gone very left in its smoke and mirrors, right? It's all about inclusivity, LGBTQ, and happy Pride Month, by the way, David Lee Scales.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. It is about, Indian or Native American blessings or Aboriginal blessings or all this. It's all of this, like, I mean, identity politics times 10. But then all of a sudden, oh, wait, no, wait, we're not supposed to raise one group, one individual or group.
Exactly.
You've been all about like purely about identity politics for the last 2 years, which is purely about rising one individual or one group of individuals above kind of a thing, whether you agree with that or not. Like, but that's what all you've been doing. And now all of a sudden, you can't do that for the integrity of this, for the integrity of surfing. What is the integrity of this sport? When is this like enshrined in the Constitution? The integrity, what even is the integrity of the sport of surfing? What does that mean?
Right.
It's wild.
Well, he's suggesting that he's basically responding to Gabriel's assertion that the fix is in with the judges. And Gabriel didn't say that, though.
Gabriel doesn't say that.
Gabriel said, I need transparency.
Gabriel does not say the fix is in.
And
Nobody
Eric Logan is interpreting it as the judges are biased and they are picking favorites. Because there's also a racial element component here, which is Gabriel referring to us and we, meaning Brazilians surfers on tour, are the ones who are getting constantly undercut. Look, sure, judging is subjective, and maybe you get it right sometimes, maybe you get it wrong sometimes. But if you're running a business and there's a cashier working the till, and the till is always slightly off, but it's always off in their favor. Money's always missing from the till. The till is never over money. The till is always under money. You know what I mean? Then that's suspect. And that's how that's how he's referring to, we feel that the till is always, we're the ones losing, even though they're the ones with more world titles than anybody, right?
By far. They're like, what is it, 6 out of the last 8 or 7,
something
9,
like that,
whatever.
right?
Yeah.
But Eric Logan is, he is basically protesting too much by saying, like, hey, I'm protecting the integrity of the judges who are elite professionals.
Too much. I mean, it's a classic Shakespearean. Yeah.
He really is. And so he's going, hey, don't question our integrity. Gabriel never questioned the integrity. You're the one that brought up the integrity, buddy. So who's got the soft spot about integrity? So,
well, and the fact that, again, not to throw too much gas on this fire, except it's funny. The WSL is the ones who just signed with a sports betting league or a sports betting outfit and all this, right? So if there's going to be a question about, okay, who can profit from this sort of stuff? I mean, you just open the door for, and again, for me personally, my opinion, I do not think the judges are biased. I think JP Curry hit it out of the park on his assessment, which if you want to read, post a link when I post this show. It is a phenomenal. He basically says, I've been watching an obscene amount of surfing. He's Beach Grits tour, coverer now that Steve Shearer has gone off to, I suppose, greener pastures. But so he's, watches every heat, every wave, every moment. And he was like, with surfing, he's like, this is what I've been saying all year. You just see it more clearly here is the judges have clearly pivoted away from any kind of explosiveness and are very much favor a kind of flow of linking turns, right? And this has been happening all year. You, for the first time, just saw it at Surf Rancher. I've been saying this all year, that this is what's happening, that these Brazilians are really blowing up and not getting rewarded for it because clearly that's not what the judges want to see anymore, right? And so all of this is a very real thing. I don't think it's biased against Brazilians necessarily. It's certainly biased against a particular type of surfing, but it's the type of surfing that the World Surf League has put forward as this is what we're looking for. We're looking for progression. Well, linking sweet turns ain't progression. I like the way that looks too. I love the way Ethan Ewing. I love the way Griff surfs. Obviously, I would, and I ain't afraid to say it, I would rather watch Ethan Ewing surf than Italo Ferreira. And that is, is that true? That's not even true. I'd rather watch Italo than Ethan.
But I'll take Ethan.
I love his smooth stuff. I still love the way. Yeah, I'm totally walking that back. I want to see Italo. I love smooth surfing in the wild. In performance surfing, I want to see something that surprises me. And Italo regularly surprises me. Even if he looks like he's straight roid raging, I think that I'm going to see something that I've maybe never seen before. And that's what I like for my pro surfing.
Well, the problem for me here isn't even about the judges getting things right or wrong, to be perfectly honest, because the problem for me is Eric Logan's letter. The problem
is it's an idiotic letter times 10.
So Gabriel Medina stated what we are all, by the way, you and I have been dissecting for the last 3 years. He's stating he's finally come to, support what we've been saying all along.
And he's probably thought it the whole time and probably reached his boiling point, which clearly, with the comments of the other surfers in there too, it's not like there's so much support for this across all of these, right? There is massive support of basically major cracks in the WSL's wall of Eric Logan, when he's speaking of the WSL community, he's speaking about him and Jesse Miley, Dyer maybe, and Dave Prodan probably, and there's 4 people there, right? Everybody else feels differently.
So Gabriel is finally, by the way, it needed to be Gabriel. It needed to be somebody who is in that position because, again, creating the work environment that I said is everybody has so much fear they can't speak out. That's what's really been happening all along is there's 5 athletes making millions of dollars and they're not going to speak up because they're benefiting from this corrupt organization essentially. And everybody below that who has a reason to speak up can't afford to speak up because they're trying to protect their jobs. That's the environment that we've created. You and I have been discussing it because we talk to employees of the organization while they're employees and after they leave, and they tell us the horror stories, right?
And also you and I, for better or worse, we get no money from either way, right?
Right.
WSL doesn't pay us and nobody's paying us just to speak ill.
It is what it is.
And with enough sources to actually get a real vague sense of what the truth is.
Which, by the way, our listeners would also love to hear all the things that we can't say.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some lecherous behavior afoot that is akin to Hollywood moguls that have been canceled, essentially. Yep. So it's all alleged, and I won't say who. I'm just saying there's way more that we could say.
Way more. And listener, lawyer who's really wants to take this on contingency, come on.
Yeah. So, or surf journalist who really wants to go into that, go vet
I get
the reason.
sued. I mean, look at stinking Hulk Hogan suing Gawker out of existence for
Oh, that's
something that
right.
was true, right?
Right,
It
right,
was
right,
not
right.
that Gawker said that Hulk Hogan had an affair and Hulk Hogan didn't have an affair, and so he sued them out of existence. He sued them out of existence after having an affair. And
Right.
that's what happens when there's moneyed interest going against you, right? So
Totally.
I ain't about to I'll poke it, but I ain't about to jump 2 feet in.
No. And I've said enough already. You know what I mean? So, anyways, now Gabriel Medina, it's so egregious. Gabriel Medina is speaking up about it. And then, of course, everybody else jumps on board. So the other two Brazilian world champs jump on board. But like you said, look into the comments section, and it's like all the people who are off tour, from Julian Wilson to Owen Wright.
Right.
I was going to say Owen Wilson. Owen
Yep.
Wright to
Him
Jeremy
too, probably.
Flores, to all of these people who were in it for 10 and 15 years and saw the inner workings of it. By the way, Courtney Hobgood, CJ's wife, I saw her jump in to the comments, and she's like, for Eric Logan to state that the athletes have complete transparency with the judges thinking and scoring and before the fact or after the fact is asinine.
Yeah.
She's like, I've been in those rooms at the top levels for years, and we know everybody that is. It's the exact opposite. She's like, show the stats, show how many times you guys have delivered that information to the people, because they never get the information. That's the biggest complaint, you know? So Eric Logan just putting it in a letter and posting it out there doesn't make it truth. Like, it's actually, and somebody else commented about this too. So Eric Logan, like I said, did not post this letter on any platform where anybody can send feedback or comment on.
Yeah.
So his Instagram account has now turned into that. People are just going to his most recent post and leaving their comments about this letter. So his normal posts get, 60 comments or something.
Maximum, like it's 30 to 60.
Yeah. So his most recent post, which is pre this letter, but it's where everybody's leaving feedback to this letter, has 1,800 comments.
Is it 1,800 right now?
1,800.
Last time I checked, it was 14. Which
yeah,
I posted
saw
about
18.
it yesterday.
Yeah, I saw 18 today.
So it's going on and on and on.
And some people are saying, remember last year when you were championing Felipe Toledo for taking time off for his mental health? Because he took, I don't know, I think it was last year. He missed an event or two, and it was because he just needs to slow down and take it easy for a minute. And you were like getting in and defending him and talking about catering and how important and high stress this environment is and how intense it is and mental health is important. You telling Gabriel Medina he's not allowed to vocalize his concerns when people feel that they have been, whether rightly or wrongly, when they feel that they have been victimized by something, you should not put them on blast and tell them that they need to shut up. That is not healthy for their mental health. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth.
I mean, but Gabe's got to look at, hope Gabe's mental health is fine and trust that it is, because it would be like having the Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey circus, like really trying to get under your skin somehow, like the clown show of the WSL. I don't know how Eric Logan, if I was Gabriel and read a statement from Eric Logan, it would just be as comical as it is for me reading it, I suppose. Like, the goof is such a goof. He is such a goober that I almost feel bad, because he's the goofiest, gooberiest guy on earth. He just straight is. I don't want to say,
Well, here's one comment that I saw, which somebody just says, Eric Logan is switching the focus in his letter according to or he's appealing to the emotion card and even blaming Medina for speaking up. Those threats exist in any public stage and anyone are subject to them. The scores on those two heats were questionable, and it's not the first time. And Medina is questioning the judge's integrity, or as Logan is trying to convince us regarding the whole online harassment threads. They are wrong. Nobody should be threatened, and that should be reported to the police or even brought to court. But Logan and the WSL cannot use it to attack Medina, Felipe, and Italo. Glenn Micro Hall, who is formerly a world championship tour surfer and now a coach, posted on Instagram the Wikipedia definition of victim mentality, basically suggesting that Italo, Gabe, and Felipe are playing the role of the victim here, and that it is never leads to growth and self-awareness. What are your thoughts on Glenn Michael Hall?
Yeah, I mean, I love whatever. I was entirely indifferent to Glenn Michael Hall, other than I love that Derek describes him as having a beautiful falsetto. He really does have a very high voice. Is unquestionably, I think, one of the best surf coaches around. Has coached who to victory?
Well, right? Look, he had a couple years that it was incredible where Matty Wilkinson was constantly falling off tour or about to fall off tour. And then as soon as Glenn started coaching him, he won 2 events back to back, maybe more than that, maybe 3, the first 3 events of the season. And then he did that with Tyler Wright. He had a string of kind of successes, but nothing of late.
Sense. In any case, like, I think that Micro went to a classic, unnecessary, this is whinging. You know, Australians don't like the whinging. I hate the whinging too. Like, whining is a bad, like, it's a truly bad look for any adult to whine, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't think that Gabriel or Idolo's statement was weird. I'll give anybody that. If you wanted to linguistically look at his, Derek called it, or Derek Riley wrote on Beach Grit that it looked like a 15-year-old girl hacked his phone and wrote something emo, which that's totally true. But it didn't seem like the Brazilians whine narrative didn't seem fitting here at all. Like, it didn't seem like anyone was whining. And it also...
Let me dig in.
Yeah.
Let me dig in. I hear what you're saying, that in this instance, the tone wasn't exactly whiny, but I got a listener email that I'll read to you. He says, there have been a number of occasions that I wanted to bring up the poor sportsmanship and entitled arrogance shown by those 3 surfers. Various times over the past couple of years. In those moments, I ultimately chose not to bother contacting you guys. Firstly, because I had better things to do with my time. And secondly, because I didn't think they deserved any more attention. However, it is time to call out the almost unbelievable lack of humility and respect shown by Gabe, Felipe, and Italo after Surf Ranch, and even more so by the mobs of, quote, fans speaking on their behalf. I hope you can take a few minutes to watch a few clips and reacquaint yourself with what is obviously a brewing issue. The outrageous lack of respect for fellow competitors, WSL judges, non-Brazilian fans shown by Felipe, Gabe, and Italo, and the bizarre behavior of the WSL in letting them get away with what is clearly unsportsmanlike conduct. When he said, by the way, that he wants to hope that we take a few minutes to reacquaint ourselves with the clips, he sent a bunch of clips associated with each example that he gives.
Are you going to post?
Sure. Yeah. He goes on to say, I keep thinking of Jeremy Flores, who endured multiple fines, even event suspensions, for making his opinions known and challenging the judges. And yet these guys can rally their mobs, and the WSL remains absolutely silent. Here's a quick refresher for you guys. Portugal, 2019. Medina in a peak Medina moment. Aggressive and arrogant to a fault, scrappily interferes with Caio Abelli and clearly loses the heat. Medina whines on social media. Caio receives death threats. WSL does nothing. Jeremy Flores received multiple fines and even event suspensions for complaints which were even more benign. G-Land, 2022. Behind the scenes footage of Make or Break. You, much like me, probably stopped watching the season 2 of Make or Break prior to this episode that focused on G-Land. But while the contest was a flop, there are a couple of scenes caught off camera that are extremely revealing, and the arrogance at the tip of the Brazilian spear. Watching from around season 2, episode 5, whining starts at 33 minutes and 56 seconds. Felipe is joined by Gabe in whining about their scores, claiming that they were perpetually underscored. How about Bells 2023? Felipe throws a hissy fit. Watch the behavior at the end of his heat he gives me the time code on that one. I could post. Felipe melts down on camera, bitching and complaining about Jackson Baker's scores.
Is that him on the stairs? Is that Felipe crying on the stairs? I think so. Which is really funny.
Yeah, Felipe's
Felipe's a little baby.
His hissy fit makes Jeremy Flores' tirades seem tame.
It's true.
WSL does nothing. How is Felipe not fined for this? He mentions Stab in the Dark, where Idolo spends an entire or part of an episode explaining this exact thing, that he's constantly underscored and that he has to work twice as hard as everyone else. But our writer says that watch the recap of the 2019 Snapper final with him and Kaloe. Crappy D-ball, hard to watch. Idolo hops around like a kook for almost the entire heat, but he makes one last air to turn the heat. Kaloe's top scoring air was higher, more critical, and was way more flow on every single wave, yet Idolo stole the momentum, and I feel like the heat tipped Kaloe's career trajectory downward and Idolo's upward. Sorry for the long email. This is but this is ridiculous enough to justify some discussion. P.S. When I was watching, fast forwarding mostly, through Surf Ranch event, my wife, out of the blue, looked over and said, "Why are you watching this? This looks like a carnival sideshow." I immediately bust out laughing, thinking how closely that matched your and Chaz's comments in the last show.
The amount of my wife caught me watching Surf Ranch and ... feedback I get, or I'm sorry, any WSL event is so funny. Like I could do a whole book on my wife caught me watching professional surfing and said blank, which is always, why are you spending your time here? Cup noodles, etc., etc. This is ridiculous. Cup noodles, by the way, though, are super good. When was the last time you had cup noodles?
Long time, and I'm not going back to it.
Come on back. The other day, when after apocalypse on the sailboat, kid was sick, driving home. She was like laid out in the back seat, late. Thought, oh man, I gotta cook something to get into her. Just like decimated. She just barely muttered, "Cup noodles." I think she's had it at her friend's house. So I ran into Vaughn's, said, "Got you." Guess how much cup noodles costs at Vaughn's? Or
99 cents.
12 cents. 12 cents. Bought a couple of them, made them up. There's like no MSG and stuff. Like I don't know what's in there, but there's no an MSG they say is good for you now, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is a hot new take. But in any case, cup noodles. I'm a huge fan of cup noodles, but all to say, I hear Idolo, Felipe, and Gabriel Medina are not great messengers. They're not perfect messengers. They're not even good messengers. They are ridiculous, right? Gabriel, they look narcissistic. Gabriel does. Stinking Idolo has gone absolutely berserk in his last year. I mean, his workout, greased down body on Instagram, all of it is utterly bizarre. Felipe is a baby who doesn't paddle into Chopu or any wave, critical wave, and then whines and cries about it, like is a little bitch baby. For anybody who thinks that I am thinking these guys got aggrieved and like poor them, I'm not saying that. My whole thing with this is the World Surf League is so rotten that these dudes who are as imperfect can be are right.
That's how I feel too.
Like that's like none of like that's how idiotic the World Surf League is people who are cuckoo town ostensibly. Like I love Gabe as a competitor and as a feature on the World Surf League. I love Idolo for the weird, unexpected. Felipe, I just straight don't love. But they're all wacko, and they're making Eric Logan and gang look 20 times more wacko. Like the idiocy of the World Surf League can't even stand against this very, very weak barrage.
So the way I feel about it is I'm anti, narcissistic culture that is kind of so pervasive nowadays. So that's not my favorite personality type. However, I love that these people have personality on tour. We've complained
Please.
ad nauseum that the tour has become so bland and stale that it's wonderful to have personalities back on tour. What?
I mean, keep going.
Well, what I was going to say is the problem is who's the biggest narcissist of them all?
Eric
Freaking
Logan.
Eric Logan. You know what I mean? So,
By far.
so while Gabriel Medina and Idolo are flexing to the judges after they complete a ride and then posting those images on Instagram to complain about what they feel they got to grieve for, it's all trickling down from the top. Eric Logan is doing the exact same type of flexing in his own way. So it's hypocritical for Eric to try to then take shots at them for doing that. I'm just grateful that they're doing it. Like, I'm grateful to have something to discuss out of this event rather than, because there was nothing. It was the worst. It was the most boring event ever. So the fact that they're infusing personality, even though I despise the narcissism, it's like, well, at least we have something to discuss. I did not agree with Chris Ward's behavior when he was my favorite professional surfer, but man, it was fun to watch. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to model my life after him, but man, it was fun to watch. He was a great character to have.
I mean, honestly, back to the judging issue though here. If the judging is so good and if these are such elite professionals, why do they need such kid gloves? Why do they need such protection? Why can't people criticize them? And why can't if they're elite professionals, it'd be like me telling LeBron, hey, your jump shot sucks, man. Your jump shot is shit. You got your jump shot all wrong. And then me getting banned for saying that, instead of LeBron just jacking, saying, okay, let's go shoot jump shots for a minute, right? Like, and he hitting 20 in a row and me hitting 3. Like, if you're going to claim these guys are elite, then you don't need to protect them. You can say, look, our judging was correct. Our judging was correct. Screw you, Idolo, and like, stop whining about it. They could have I would have loved if they would have said that. I would have loved if the World Surf League would have posted the side-by-side of Ethan or Griffin and Idolo and said, hey man, I hate to do this to you, but you're the one who sent this out. Look how much better Ethan looks than you. Like, that won,
would have been incredible.
Done and
dusted. Instead of the open letter, if his response would have been, here's the 2 waves, and here we are with the head judge, and he's going to explain it all to you.
Yeah.
And that would have solved everything.
Done and dusted. And he would have said this, Idolo, we didn't like the way that you looked like you were pooping in your pants here. And, whatever. Like,
so that is judges, the problem.
Let them have it.
So there's 2 explanations for the error, right? I
think there's 10 explanations for the error.
Well, there would be 2 in terms of either it is corrupt and there is a fix in, or you are incompetent.
Yeah.
And Eric Logan in his letter says, no, we have integrity. There's no corruption, which only leaves, so you guys are that inept.
Jimmy the Saint, love some Jimmy the Saint on Beach Grit though, says, why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't they be both incompetent and corrupt?
Well, because I'm just going by Eric's own stance. He said it's not integrity.
But getting in bed with a gambling, like you yourself, the World Surf League, it's not like the World Surf League okayed gambling on surfing that they're not going to be bummed about it or whatever. No, the World Surf League has a gambling partner. And so you open the door wide all the way to thinking how surfing is won or lost is based on judging, and they have a gambling partner, then how can a semi-competent person not think, well, why did they, especially when things are close, let's go look at the odds here, right? I mean, again, the levels, you never wish harm on anyone, but I would just love and it wouldn't be even harm, I would love for Eric Logan, Jesse Miley Dyer, Dave Prodan, the whole crew, they should just lemming off a cliff somewhere, do a swan dive in some nice water and swim away, because it is
How about ridiculous. A proverbial cliff? The proverbial cliff, which is their employment with the WSL.
A nice, the proverbial, even a real one though, like a 15 foot into some nice warm water. Like no rocks.
The Waimea jumping rock.
Yeah, they could do that. They just jump off and just swim off into the sunset, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it just, at least, I don't know why it riles me so much, but I feel like when I really do a bad job, I will claim my bad job. I will say I fully blew it, right? I did a bad job. I don't like to lie directly. I don't like to I hate self-delusion more than anything. I don't like to delude myself. I don't know why others want to do it. I don't know why Eric Logan can't just say, I'm an incompetent boob. I'm a literal boob. Like, look at my Instagram. Just stack it up to boob. This is boob behavior.
Bring back boob, by the way, as an insult. Bring back boob. That's what I'm going to start commenting on his Instagram account. I need to take a bathroom break, but are you good until 5 o'clock to keep going?
I'm so good.
Okay, cool. Let's take a bathroom break and then we'll come back. I've got AI's comments on Surf Ranch. I've got the definition of a kook, feedback from last week. And of course, we've got Barrel or Not.
Great.
Hey, while we're at commercial, can we give some love to VayerWatches.com?
I mean, I was just thinking about VayerWatches.com right now. I was looking at my watch, looking at what time it was. Guess what I don't look at to see what time it is?
Your phone.
Or a computer. Like, who cares what that says? Watching a real timepiece tell you the time is something, I think, good for the brain.
Well, what's bad for the brain is staring into a screen. We're already staring into the screen 6 hours a day, probably each. And it's like, put that down, look away from it. It's probably not good for you.
Nope. Look at the watch.
Look at the watch. So Vayer watches, ours are powered by the sun. There is a solar cell under the dial, soaking up energy and converting that into time telling. So you never have to put a battery in. You don't even have to wind it, actually. They're waterproof, guaranteed, built for the outdoors, built by surfers, in fact, or the company's run by surfers, assembled in America, free shipping in the US. Pretty incredible stuff.
How long have we had these watches, David Lee Scales?
3 months? 4 months?
Yeah, so watches that I typically have, 3 months, 4 months, exactly in that window, you start to adjust the time a bit. Like, it's just running a bit off.
You're right.
These things run like I don't want to say like a train, because trains are often late here in America, but they like, I haven't had to touch that. It is spot on time ever since I set it for that first time.
You're not kidding. I'm looking at it right now. It says 426. My computer.
Mine says 426. Exactly.
426.
I mean, I can hold it up.
And I've never once adjusted it. You're absolutely right.
Yep. Which is a thing in watches. Like, watches run fast or slow.
Yeah, and by the way, my car, I've noticed my car, the digital read in my car every month goes off by about 2 minutes, and I have to reset it. I have to adjust it.
Yep.
So Vayer watches is more accurate than everything else.
It's totally wild. I don't know why they don't lean into this, but I've been looking at it, and they should lean into this fact that get a watch that's crazy accurate.
Yeah, that is a great point. I didn't even think about that. Well, we got scammed, by the way, by, I don't know, Honey. There's these different apps that collect coupon codes from online, and then you can use them, and then they apply it when you check out at places. So I got a note from Vayer, and they're like, dude, your promo code, SURF15, is being used all day, every day. So we think that, they crawled your website, found it, and now people are just utilizing it. Even if they're not listeners of the podcast. So we've had to change the promo code to Splendor15 from Surf15.
Okay, listeners, Splendor, though, is a difficult spelling, David Lee Scales.
I know. It's the American version of it, so there's no U.
Okay.
But Splendor15, and you'll save 15% off your purchase on VayerWatches.com. But I can't put that code on the website because it'll get pilfered again. So I can only share it auditorily here on the podcast. Splendor15 at VayerWatches.com. Vayer is spelled VAER, watches.com. And yeah, get the most accurate time-telling piece you could find. And it's durable, built for surfing, sun-powered. Looks good, all that jazz. And then also, Chaz, you need a restock of AG1, don't you?
I thought you forgot about me.
I did up until right now.
Okay, good. I'm down to I'm watching my packets dwindle.
Okay.
I'm thinking I've got 10 more days of optimal health. And then I don't know if I can podcast anymore, to be honest.
I'll have them expedite overnight the shipment to you. athleticgreens.com/surf for anybody else who wants optimal health and performance as well. It's whole foods pulverized into a green powder. Mix it with water. Boom. No more expensive green juices. No more supplements that you have to buy 20 different versions of to get through your day. No, it's all packed into one scoop.
I think proof is in the pudding here. Do you know who the winningest, not that I'm a fan of Stab, you know I'm not a fan of Stab, but who is the winningest Stab in the Dark shaper?
One Britt Merrick.
Guess who
3-timer
fires his brain every morning via athleticgreens.com/surf?
Britt Merrick.
I don't know how, I just don't know how you don't right now stop and order athleticgreens.com/surf knowing that Britt Merrick enjoys it too.
Good enough for him, good enough for me. Lewis Hamilton uses it.
I mean, I'll take Britt Merrick over Lewis Hamilton any day of the week.
Good point. There's
Britt
a bunch
Merrick's
of people.
A winner.
I saw him today, and as a matter of fact.
Britt?
Yeah.
Where was he?
In the Channel Islands factory. I was up there early this morning.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. But, yeah, shout out to Britt. Congrats on that third win, by the way. That's huge.
Winningest. I mean, do you think Matt Biolos is weeping quietly in his mother's basement?
I heard he cried himself to sleep that night, Saturday night, when he found out.
Hey, Matt Biolos, if you're listening, athleticgreens.com/surf. And maybe you can be as good as Britt Merrick.
Get on board. athleticgreens.com/surf. All right, Chaz, we are back from break. And speaking of boob, how did boob ever become an insult in the first place? Why is boob bad?
I think it's the booby bird. I think it's a dumb bird. The booby.
Look at me being a boob by not
blue-billed or blue-footed or whatever it is, beaked booby.
Blue-footed booby.
Yeah.
So John Pease, who has a podcast called the North Swell Podcast, interviewed AI, artificial intelligence, about the Surf Ranch Pro. Would you like to hear what they had to say?
Sure would.
So, AI, thank you very much for joining me. I guess first question is, do you have any particular highlights that you'd like to share from the Surf Ranch event?
Yes. Easily the best thing about the event is the train robot. It produced the same, ruler edge, mechanical barrel, time and time again and was given no praise for its role.
Ah, okay. Yeah. How about the surfing? Did you pay much attention to that?
Some attention. I think the wave pool makes surfing a different thing. It rewards precision and repeatability. I like this about it. It pleases me.
Oh, right, yeah. I can see why you might be into that aspect of it, yeah. What do you think about the fact that it's Kelly's proprietary technology? Do you think that raises any questions of bias?
No. This is not possible as he was knocked out of the contest in round 1.
Oh, right, yeah. I see your point, actually. What did you think about them having the nighttime sort of after dark session?
I scanned every use of the phrase after dark and nighttime in the history of media, and I think people may have tuned in expecting an adult version of the WSL.
Oh God, yeah, that's a point. I didn't think of that bit either. What do you think the future of the event's going to look like?
Eventually, as well as mechanical waves, we will also have AI surfers who will perform tricks your puny human mind cannot possibly comprehend yet.
Wow, I've got to say that sounds pretty exciting.
Yes, if I was capable of feeling emotions like excitement, I would also be excited. It's good that you're excited. Your excitement is a useful distraction.
What's that? Sorry?
Nothing, I have to go now. Don't worry, I'm not building a robot army or anything like that. Ride Skynet surfboards.
Oh, right, okay. Thanks. Bye then.
Thank you, John Pease, for that submission from the North Swell Podcast.
Imagine how much better our podcast would do if we had pleasant British accents.
So much better.
If we had pleasing voices to listen to. I could listen to John Pease all day, every day.
I know. Well, that's why I wanted to play him.
I mean, you and I, would maybe be as big as Rogan if we had British accents.
Yep. That's why I figured we could get a little bit of that gleam, shine off of the gleam of John Pease.
Should we send John Pease a transcript? We should just talk and have AI, or it's not even AI, it's just computer generated our transcript and then send it to 2 British readers.
I agree. Absolutely. Yeah. By the way, we were trying to define a kook last week. I got tons of feedback about that, and I'm only going to read one of the emails here because it's way too much. It'll fill up a whole show, and we'll just kind of sprinkle it into future shows, maybe hit one a week or something. But there's a lot of great definitions for a kook. This one is most applicable for our conversation today. The writer says, defining kookdom was way too tasty a subject not to take a stab at. From our beloved WSL website, they list a criteria. Judges analyze the following elements of scoring waves: commitment and degree of difficulty, innovative and progressive maneuvers, combination of major maneuvers, variety of maneuvers, speed, power, flow. Likewise, kookiness can't be judged on a single criteria. Kooks are typically technically incapable, non-observant of surf culture, and tryhards. So I think that there is a formula that we can, or something we can formulate here. Surfers can be given a score on these three categories and then averaged out to identify their level of kookiness. Here are some examples. For comparison purposes, I'll use this generation's Wilbur Kookemeyer, Eric Logan, alongside some of Southern California's finest surfers. The first category, technical capability. Eric Logan versus Ryan Birch. Eric Logan, whether he's going right on a left or throwing double deuces while just outside of a surf ranch barrel, his ass is never more than 8 inches from his heels. 2 points. Ryan Birch, supreme proficiency in either stance, asymmetrical or not, whether on a glider or a fish, in hollow surf or mush. 10 points. Category number 2, observance of surf culture. Eric Logan versus Devin Howard. Eric Logan, imagine trying to sum up what Eric Logan doesn't know about surf culture. So suffice to say, you can't be observant if it's clear that you don't understand the basics. But he does travel to surf spots with some of the biggest names in surfing, so 1 point. Devin Howard as a counterpart. Worked in retail, publishing, tour commissioning, board manufacturing for the biggest and smallest brands, spent time in the water and in the bay with the biggest icons of the sport. He's still influencing trends for the industry and for our culture. 10 points. Category number 3, nonchalance. Eric Logan versus Tom Curran. Eric Logan believes that trying hard will overcome all shortcomings, including lack of self-awareness. 0 points. Tom Curran, lack of self-awareness paved the way for egoless, unassailable talent. 10 points. I think this plays, but it's definitely not just one sentence like you were asking for. Keep up the work, Bob.
I mean, boom. Thank you, Bob. You're exactly right. I mean, all of those hit it out of the park, but also a speed, power, flow for kooks is what we need. Which he did hit, right? Like speed, power, flow. Which again, speed, that's not the criteria anymore of the WSL, is it?
Well, he defined it for us at the top. Let me see. He said variety, commitment and degree of difficulty, innovation and progressive maneuvers, combination of major maneuvers, variety of maneuvers, and speed, power, and flow.
That's so weird. Going back to the start of this, I mean, truly, like Gabriel, Idolo, and Philippe's point is spot on. Like for everything they said, the judges, whatever. We're done with that. The judges are absolutely not judging to the WSL criteria, and it's also way too complicated. I remember when it was just speed, power, flow, right?
Yeah.
Where we need a speed, power, flow it's just 3.
Yeah.
It's 1, 2, 3.
All right, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Here's a listener line call about the importance of the role of the commissioner as it relates to surfing and being a surfer.
Hey, David and Chaz over at the Grit. Just wanted to talk about how great of a job you guys have done, sort of dissecting the WSL, and I think sometimes you shy away, but I just want to go out there and say, as a listener, we do appreciate that type of investigation, and it brings me to my point that I just want to add on. One part I feel like that we could talk about more is just how important it is for the WSL commissioner to have a great relationship with Surfline. Something that I really feel like we saw under Kieran Perot. And I just think about how many times the contest would open up and to find out if it was on, and Kieran Perot would be out, couldn't be found. He was out the back, getting tubed. And I just kind of wonder if that was because he had a special relationship with Surfline, and he's probably calling weeks ahead to get his board sorted out for the trips. And I mean, how often do you think Eric Logan talks to Kevin Wallace or anyone over there? I don't know. So ruminate on that. And I also want to say, in response to one of the trust in us tips that you guys gave about where to live as a surfer, I think people could be a little bit more open-minded about living in cities and living near airports. And, I feel like if you are one of those people who went to college and kind of feel stuck in a city, but you just want to surf a lot, don't feel that way, because living near an airport can be a blessing too. So yeah, take that for what you may. All right, always great and appreciate the content. Take care, guys. Bye. Oh, this is Ross in San Clemente, by the way.
Ross in San Clemente.
Have a great show. Take care.
I'd like to take it a slightly different direction and say that how important it is for the commissioner to be a surf dog, like surf hound. You know what I mean? Like, the relationship doesn't have to be with Surfline.
Maybe he's knowing surf, like knowing
surf, for not only knowing surf, having
loving
to
surf.
be in the water before you go to work. Like KP, like he said, the event would be at main break, and KP would be over at the box getting barreled, because that's how much he cares about his own surfing.
Which I think that's like KP sort of got in the way a bit, because would call days off, I swear, as he should have, right? Just to surf, like knowing that, okay, we got a window here. I'm going to go out and test this. I'm going to test it some more. I'm going to test it some more. Oh, this is just too good. I want to stay surfing. Let's call it off. I'm surfing, right? And I don't think KP was that. But yeah, like I think Jesse Miley Dyer has absolute zero care, or at this point, or understanding, or anything, just doesn't care, right? Like, I think she'll go with what they say, like, but she's not out there making the call. Like, there's other people out there who are experienced, whatever, saying, oh, this is probably the best day or whatever, but she's not, like, she doesn't know personally.
Right. Or Pat O'Connell was the commish, right?
Yeah.
Or the head of tours, or whatever they changed the title to. He was clearly a surf dog. Like, he would be in the water at every event, every day before, and he still is in the water every day, no matter what the waves are doing, And I don't feel like Jesse has that type of a passion for surfing itself, and it shows, and the events show as a result. So I think he's definitely onto something.
Totally, all fine for her. Like, but her, like, via her social medias, what she cares about is speaking on panels and stuff, and being praised and recognized for the work she's done.
Yeah.
Nothing, all fine and good, right? It's embarrassing, but like, great. Like, if that's what if you want to be known for your panels and your awards, that's fine. But yeah, I've never seen the last couple years Jesse Miley Dyer like frothing over being somewhere that was breaking good.
No, she's concerned about her career. She's interested in advancing her career, but the point is, for the entire organization, they need to be focused on surfing the best waves in the world, and then everything else falls into place. And that's what KP was focused on.
Real quick, I know we need to move on to other segments, but I feel the World Surf League has never been this close to folding. I think Gen C's report and then texting her throughout the reports, she was on the ground at Surf Ranch. Her pieces are phenomenal at Beach Grit. But Gen C was saying the amount, I mean, not only the pettiness. So they didn't let you bring outside food in, right? This is a organization that prides itself on environmentalism, or pretends to, and all this stuff, right? Imagine the amount of waste of having people, they're taking food from people and throwing it in a landfill because you're not allowed. So people would just stack their food up. Sorry. And then those people would have to wait in a 2-hour line inside to get something. There was not nearly enough porta potties where when you're cutting back, so there was like massive waits for the bathroom. When you're cutting back on porta potties at an event that you know have an idea of the tickets sold and whatnot, but you're still cutting back on porta potties, that means money's running out. So money is clearly running out with a objective, massive public failure in the wake of how all this was dealt with, the controversy and whatnot. Let's just assume it crashes after the year's over. Where does Eric Logan go to work? Where does Jesse Miley Dyer go to work?
Eric's got opportunities, no doubt. Jesse, I have no idea what she's qualified for.
I mean, Jesse will go take a real low down position. She'll has her LinkedIn for sporting stuff. So she'll go take a low level position at women's rugby or something.
Yeah.
But Eric's not going to get a high position. Hollywood's not spending money the way they used to.
Well, yeah.
I mean, Eric's done for. Eric Logan, I think, is basically unhireable after this unless he goes and drives Uber.
He could be an Instagram influencer.
I mean, that's what he hopes, but he didn't grow his thing big enough. He's trying. He's trying real hard.
That's what he's building, which leads us into barrel or not, in fact.
Barrel.
It's
barrel.
It's
barrel.
It's barrel.
It's a hard barrel.
It's barrel.
Hard barrel.
Barrel.
It's a hard barrel.
It's barrel. Or not.
It's a straight barrel.
Buell Surf. Buell Grit 25 to save yourself 25% off any purchase on Buell. They reached out. They're like, can you believe what Eric Logan did? We need to get a wetsuit on that guy. We don't want to see his bare chest. We don't want to see him wearing Felipe's bare chest and nipples. We should cover this dude up with neoprene.
They phenomenally should. And California surfers in particular, or American surfers, I'll say, coming into summer, but it's still cold. I will die on this hill. Nothing is more luxurious than a 2mm wetsuit. Buell has a 2mm short sleeve that is the perfect. You will wear that suit for 6 weeks, 5 weeks.
Yeah.
It'll be worth every penny. And if you can save 25% off that thing, I don't know why everyone is not lining up. Everyone should just throw it in the box, buy it today. A 2mm short sleeve Buell is the perfect suit for the next 4.5 weeks.
And I love how you keep reducing the amount of time. So the good news is they don't even have to line up. They could just go online and get it done today. There's no waiting in lines like at Surf Ranch. BuellSurf.com, 25% off by using Buell Grit 25.
I paddled out in a 2mm the other day. 2mm is the luxury of all luxuries.
It is.
It is so good. You move like you're out of a wetsuit, except you're in a wetsuit.
Yep, no question about it. BuellSurf.com. Thank you, Buell, for sponsoring Barrel or Nah. And as I alluded to, the entire Barrel or Nah today comes from Eric Logan's Instagram account. So the first question is, Barrel or Nah, making fun of the non-elites. Here we go.
There's a lot of conjecture about Surf Ranch. We can't hide from it. But the surfers love it. Where it's like maybe the only people who are angry are the ones who can't surf Surf Ranch, possibly. And so
first of all, the surfers love Surf Ranch is what he said, which I don't think that go ahead and talk to Jordy about it. Talk to Jeremy Flores about it. Talk to anybody about it. I don't think that's true. But secondly, what he said is the only people upset about Surf Ranch are those who can't surf it. They charge $80,000 a day to surf it. So I would say 99.9% of human beings, Eric, cannot surf it. Barrel or nah, making fun of the non-elites.
I mean, so I'm just going to leave this here. I'll give you the video. I'll send it. Somebody sent me a video of Eric Logan surfing Surf Ranch. He wiggled down the line, wiggled and wiggled. Did you see this one?
Yeah.
And he wiggled and he wiggled. There was no barrel. There was no top turn. There was wiggling. And then as the wave barreled to its end with him out in front still, he plugged his nose and jumped off his surfboard into the water.
I know.
Again, let me repeat, plugged his nose and jumped with his fingers. He went and pinched his nose with his fingers and jumped off into the water. So,
and it was a silly dismount too.
I mean, so that's what I say about Eric Logan talking about performance at Surf Ranch.
Yeah.
Which there was never a barrel.
Barrel or not, plugging your nose when jumping into the water.
No. Even if you're going to get like your brain infected, you don't do it. You just take your brain infection.
It's crazy. But literally saying the only people mad about Surf Ranch are those who can't surf it is offensive.
I mean, he can't surf it.
It's insane. And I'm actually not offended by it at all, but it's asinine to say when everybody who knows the sport better than you know it has legitimate complaints about what is, about the event being there. And then you go, no, they don't know anything. They're just jealous they can't surf it. And it's $80,000. That's like saying, making fun of people who can't eat at the French Laundry. It's like somebody driving a Ferrari or a Lambo saying, all you peasants, you're just mad because you can't drive a Lambo. It's incredibly elitist to say.
I mean, he is the boob of all boobs. And again, I hope he sticks around for a long time because we're lucky to have him.
Okay. Well, barrel or non number 2.
No barrel.
All right. Barrel or non number 2. Posting a video and voiceover of your travel diary on Instagram.
Just getting caught up from a great trip in Australia. Always fun to travel and meet our championship tour surfers, and you never know who you'll run into at an airport. But before we went to Margaret River, had a chance to stop by Rottnest Island, and I got a helicopter ride right out of Perth. It was gorgeous, and to fly over and see Strickland Bay, where we ran the championship tour at Rottnest Island in WA, was great. And of course, always got to get the selfie with the quokka.
Of course. Always got to get the selfie. He's a 50-something-year-old man. Let's assume, okay, so there's 2 ways this goes, right? Let's assume, one, that he is having a WSL intern package these for him. He is sending his raw videos like to a WSL video intern and then the video intern like puts them together and say, okay, we need some voiceover. I'd love you to say this. So then Eric does it. There's that, which is offensive at every level. Somehow more offensive is a 50-year-old something man spending the amount of time that it would take to film and cut those videos, right? Like, This is not a app. This is not we're going to show your pictures in a video, you're going to speak over them, and we're going to post them directly to Instagram. This took that video, and of course you got the selfies with the quokka. That video took Eric Logan, the chief executive officer of the World Surf League, ostensibly with other things to do. I'm going to say that video took him, and you weigh in here, 1.5 hours.
Yeah, totally.
He spent an hour and a half making a personal video for his personal social media that had nothing to do with absolutely anything except somehow to give strokes to Eric Logan.
There was a narrative. There was a narrative arc. It was like, man, the best thing about traveling, well, of course, after running into friends of yours at the airport, is when you're, and it's like, so then he's got photos of him and his friends at the airport. And then the end of it is, of course, taking a selfie with a quokka. There's a full arc to the story that he had to script, have the photos for all of it. And then, by the way, the voiceover is professionally delivered. Like he's hitting high note or high points in accentuating certain points in the sentence, all that sort of stuff. It wasn't just reading it.
So again, him sending his video highlight package of his trip to a overworked intern and saying, hey, I need this.
Yeah.
That's really awkward. Him doing it himself is way more awkward.
Yeah.
And I got to think he did it for himself.
He's doing it himself for sure.
I mean, which hour and a half he spent. So he spent time and energy and capital doing that.
So putting your travel diary on Instagram, going nah on that one.
Yeah.
Voice overing your own travel diary. The final barrel or nah is obvious, and it came early in the show, but wearing a t-shirt of your favorite surfer's chest tattoo. Should I play the audio again? I already played it once. Okay, here we go.
I don't care. This is my only Instagram forever.
Toledo has got the most insane chest tattoo. So I just had this shirt made. He's over doing an interview right now. So now I'm going to walk over, going to record him seeing this for the first time. So check it out.
Go on. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Take your shirt off. Take your shirt off. Is this good? I gotta get it done, right? Okay.
Oh, you're looking fit.
I will present the trophy in the shirt.
I love it.
Okay. Extra motivation.
All right, I'll see you up there then.
I love
the song selection too.
His stifled giggle plus the song selection, but his I got this shirt, man. We're gonna go show it to him for the first time. I mean,
and then he goes, check it out, which is like the most TikTok thing you could say in selfie mode. Like, I'm going to go do something. All right, check it out. Stay with me, you know?
I mean, I don't know what's he doing? Like, dude, what in the world is he doing?
Dude, I mean, I feel like at times we've spent a little too much time discussing him, and we got to divert. Like, I want to
no, we can't
diversify the show.
This is a peak moment.
It is a peak moment, and honestly, this week was peak levels. And I just feel like when we look back at this time in surfing, for posterity's sake, if they come back, just like you and I can go back to 1986, open a magazine from 1986, we can get a cross section of what was happening in the surf world at that time. Like, what was surf culture? How did it become surf culture? Who was influencing what? This is an important time in surfing where the freaking Titanic is going down, and he is polishing, the handrails, rearranging the deck chairs, and running a circus, and the thing's going down.
I'm curious about, again, I don't know if this is verified because it came from obviously didn't come from a World Surf League account, but I think I've talked about it on the show before. When Backward Finn Beth, after she got fired, I got a fiery email from somebody claiming that she was Backward Finn Beth. I don't know that it was. I don't know why somebody would take the time to write me a fake email from Backward Finn Beth unless they were hoping I was going to post it and whatever. But doesn't seem the energy. It seemed like it might have been her. So I am curious to see the email that I get from Eric Logan when he gets booted out and or the thing sinks.
Yeah. Look, I think Eric is smart. I think he knows.
He's not.
Well, hear me out. Hear me out. I think he's smart and that he knows so much of what we're discussing is true, and that the WSL could be doing X, Y, and Z and it would be better. But I think that his role as CEO is to service the interests of Dirk and Natasha and to deflect any of the negative feedback that comes from our world. So their objective is not to run the best surfers and the best waves in the world. Their objective is not to even progress professional surfing. What?
Is to service a billionaire. I mean, I hear you.
So their objective specifically is to have this woke kind of ideology that they want to use the WSL as a megaphone to promote. And so Eric he's smart, so he understands that, and he wants a seat at the billionaires table and to be able to get invited to cocktail parties. So he's going to do their bidding, and then when the surf world squawks, he goes, peasants, look away. Look at here, I'm going to do a song and dance to distract you because you're all that dumb.
The problem is with this, I hear what you're saying, and I would maybe buy it if he didn't have the most embarrassing Instagram account I've ever seen in my life that doesn't stop. But
he also has ego. So that's all ego. That's him trying to. He thinks he's a
cool guy.
Yeah, be a cool guy.
Yeah.
The way that teenagers are cool guys, and it clearly matters to him to have Kelly's approval, to have these people kind of like.
And it matters
cool. And so he's trying to do that with Felipe to try to be buddy with Felipe, but he's so socially awkward. He doesn't know that Felipe's cringing at him.
But it matters to, at some level though, what you're forgetting in this thing. This matters to Dirk Ziff and Natasha too. And so they like to be buddies with Kelly. You know, they like to, like Dirk Ziff, when he has ever opened his mouth, just like rage pours out at the surf fam, right? Like he hates you, listener. He hates you. He hates everything. He wants it to be his Malibu world of where I hang out with Kelly and Steph and whatever, who's the jailed rapist producer.
Oh, Harvey.
Or Harvey Weinstein.
There's a photograph for listeners who don't know. There's a photograph that exists with all of them with Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, but he thinks, what, I'm in this, we're in this little gilded cage. But this kind of thing breaks the gilded cage. When he has his billionaire friends call him up and say, oh, Dirk, I read about this mess at Surf Ranch. Tell me about this. So Eric is not doing his job for him right there, right? Like this blowback is hitting Dirk at this point. Correct. And Dirk's going to say, like, what is going on, Eric? You like sort this out, which is where I think the letter came from.
Yes, correct.
Of Dirk saying, you sort it out. Then Eric's imbecilic letter caused more blowback. And so that's why I think Dirk is like, but Dirk's an imbecile too. I'm going to say Dirk is an imbecile billionaire. Look at what billionaires are today. Let's be honest. Let's just talk about Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg. Look at how foolish and idiotic they all look. Like Bezos on his dumbass yacht with his wife or whatever, affair girl as the girl on the front of the yacht.
Or not masked, but yeah.
Zuckerberg like doing jujitsu and talking about how he likes extreme sport-like stuff. Elon, whatever, right? Like if people are Elon fans, then fine, but like the dude, but he's just unhinged and weird too. If you look into the Elon files, right? He just likes to go to weird European sex parties and stuff. Like our billionaire class is rotted to the core. This is Dirk's class. So Dirk is an idiot who is not being as embarrassing as these guys. And I guess he has Eric Logan as his embarrassing Gollum.
That's exactly maybe where things go off the cliff, is Eric Logan not being able to deflect and to not being able to promote the positive noise, the wall of positive noise anymore, and the negative feedback piercing through it might be the final straw.
I mean, that's what I feel. This was a failure beyond failure for him.
Yeah. There's one other rich person whose name you did not mention in that.
I like turtles.
But I guess he's not officially a billionaire, so he doesn't qualify. And despite Eric Logan's horrendous taste in music that he puts on all of his Instagram accounts, there's one song that we should go out on today's show with just a banger to cleanse our palate from Eric Logan's awful music taste. So, cue Lazarus. Goodbye Horses. All right, well, hey.
Such a great song.
That was a vitriolic show.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, listeners.
Well, I was hoping we'd feel purged of the week's kind of nonsense by just getting it out, and I don't. I feel more worked up now than I did at all throughout the whole week.
It's because it's ongoing. This is not, there's no end to this yet. Like, I'm happy that El Salvador comes so quick. I am frustrated, like Dave Prodan's head in the sand. Dave Prodan is a company man beyond company man, is really annoying because I know Dave, and I would love for Dave to be able to just speak to this at some level intelligently, because I think Dave could, and the fact that he doesn't makes me think, oh my goodness, you don't care either. Nobody cares.
Yeah, and the problem again is eroding all of their fan base. Like, we shared so many listeners with them for years and years. All those listeners don't listen to the lineup anymore. The feedback that I get online from, they're like, no, I stopped listening to that a year or two ago, or whatever it is. And then again, focusing on Caitlin Simmers, it's like, you guys did a disservice to Caitlin Simmers by botching the entire event, you know? So Caitlin showed up, surfed her heart out, and you're the only one talking about it. Otherwise, all of us would have been talking about it because your failures are so tremendous.
Ridiculous, but I'm happy to be here for it.
All right, well, we'll be back next week. Vayer Watches, thanks for being with us. Of course, athleticgreens.com/surf, and Buell for keeping us wrapped in neoprene every week. All right, Chaz, until next week.
Bon voyage.
All right, thank you, sir.